Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Jai Hind. Good evening and welcome to this session. I hope all of you are doing well. Good evening, Shankar. Good evening, Shubham. Good evening, Khushbu. Disha. Good evening. Okay, so I hope all of you are doing well. Now, in the last session, we were discussing about AI in healthcare. We have also discussed about one more important topic, that is, uh, should we allow the convicts, those who are convicted persons, should we allow them to contest election or not? So these were the two topics which we have discussed in the previous session. Now in today's session, we are going to talk about some more topics. First thing which we are going to talk about is this precedent rule in Manipur. Okay. So in the previous sessions also, we have seen that what will be the possible implications of the imposition of precedent rule. So that is one thing which we have already seen, that what happens under the case of precedent rule under this article 356. Now today we are going to see a little bit more in-depth analysis of this, that how many times this precedent rule has been imposed across various sections, across various government, across various states also. Okay. So that is one thing which we are going to see in today's session. The next thing which we are going to see is the ad hoc judges. Like now we are also having this appointment of ad hoc judges. For this topic also, we have discussed in the past that why we are going for this and how we appoint the ad hoc judges. Today we will also try to see this once again, why this is necessary and what are the possible advantages which we can get from the ad hoc judges. The third thing which we are going to talk about is about an institution, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. So this is an India-led initiative. So we are going to see a little bit about this one. And we are also going to talk about one of the most controversial, one of the most debatable issue right now in India, about the obscenity laws. Okay, that what is obscene, what should be allowed on social media and what should not be allowed. Okay. So this is one controversy which is going on. Different people are having their own opinions. We will try to see what is the law with respect to this and what are the issues with respect to this obscenity in the social media or through any OTT platforms or in any form of art. Okay. So that is one thing which we are going to talk about. Okay. Now, let us start first with the precedent rule in Manipur. Okay. Now, first, let me ask some question. First, tell me, like when we are talking about precedent rule, I think we have discussed this portion. So tell me, in what condition do we have this process of imposition of precedent rule? We have discussed this in this week itself, that in what condition we impose the precedent rule. So tell me about this. What are the conditions? What are the conditions under which a precedent rule can be imposed in any state? Article 356, okay. Good evening. If Chief Minister resigns, okay. Fine. Yeah, that we know now that Manipur CM has resigned. So in that condition, precedent rule has been imposed. Okay. So what we see that when we are talking about this, there is one article, that is Article 355. It says that the union, have to protect states from armed rebellion. This is one act which is very famous, which talks that union has this duty to protect the state from armed rebellion. The Article 356, it says that precedent rule can be imposed. Precedent rule. Okay. Now this is for failure of constitutional machinery. Failure of constitutional machinery. And then there is Article 365. Article 365. It is with respect to failure to obey the orders of the union. Okay. If state does not follow union's order or directive. So there are three important articles, I think, which all of you know: Article 356, Article 355, and Article 365. Okay. So these are three important things. But apart from this, we also see that first thing, if CM resigns, second thing, death of CM, then also president rule can be imposed. Okay. Or not always necessary, but president rule may be imposed till the time any new government is formed. Okay. Then the third condition is no clear mandate. Okay. That there is no clear mandate and elections are due. No clear mandate and elections are due. In that situation also, there can be imposition of president rule. Okay. So this is one part. That how the president rule is imposed. Now, what we are mainly concerned about, like we know that in Manipur, there has been this controversy going on since 2023 itself. 2023 May itself, we have this challenge in Manipur. In 2024 also, it was going the same. Now it is 2025 Feb. It is going to be almost 2 years now, and the Manipur issue is far from over. So now finally what we have seen that the CM of Manipur has resigned, and now there has been imposition of president rule. But if we talk about Manipur, this is not the first time. When there is imposition of this president rule in Manipur. In case of Manipur, if we look at this, this is the 11th time. If we look at this, this is the 11th time when we have this imposition of president rule in Manipur. This is the 11th time when in the last 75 years of independence, there has been imposition of this president rule in Manipur. Okay. Then what we see that it was first time of 66 days in 1967, and longest was from 1969 to 1972. That was of 2 years, 157 days. Tell me just one thing. What could be the maximum possible number of days for which the president rule can be extended in one state for one go? Like in the present times, what can be the possible number of days for which this president rule can be imposed in any state? Why he resigned? He has resigned because there was demand from the various sections of the population of Manipur that the CM is not able to run it properly. There are so many criticisms of the policies of the government. Okay. It was seen that he was not able to effectively deal with it. That's why he resigned. Okay. So in one go, 6 months, and it can be extended maximum up to 3 years. In one go, it is going to be 6 months. Maximum extent can be up to maximum of 3 years. Okay. Now what we see that in the last, if we look up, prior to this 2025, last time president rule was imposed in Manipur in 2001-2002. Okay. So it had been almost around 24 good years when president rule was not imposed in Manipur. Now we are again seeing this president rule to be imposed in Manipur. But it is not only about Manipur. If we look at this, it has been around more than 130 plus times when president rule has been imposed. Okay. It has been more than 130 plus times, even more than that, that president rule has been imposed in India. Okay. So let us see this one figure, how many times and during which rule we have this imposition of president rule. Okay. During the first time, during even Jawaharlal Nehru, president rule was imposed in 8 states. During the time of Indira Gandhi, you can see first here, second here. In total, almost 50 times. During the tenure of Indira Gandhi, it was 50 times when president rule was imposed. Okay. It was imposed at least 50 times during her tenure. Then again, you can see Morarji Desai. His tenure was of just 2 years. His tenure was of just 2 years, and during that 2 years, president rule was imposed 16 times. This was the time when political parties were just like taking revenge from one another. That if one is coming in the center, it is already dismissing all the state governments which are of opposition parties. Okay. So you can see within just 2 years, it was 16 times. During the time of Indira Gandhi, within 10 years, 11 years, it has been 35 times. And again, what we see that in just 4 years, it has been 15 times. Okay. Then again, if you look at this, during PV Narasimha Rao also, there has been imposition of it at least 11 times. From 2004 to 2014, it has been 12 times. From 2014 to 2024, it has been more than 10 times and now at least 11 times. This is as per Indian Express. Okay. As per Indian Express, up to 2023, it was 10 times. And then again, we have this in Manipur. So 11 times president rule has been imposed from 2024, 2014 to 2024. Okay. So what we see that this is one of the most frequently used provision of the Constitution. It was supposed to be a dead letter, but it is one of the most used, and rather we can say it is most abused provision of Constitution. Okay. So this is one of the major challenge of our federal structure. Okay. It has been like 130 plus times that in 75 years, there have been some cases where huge number of this emergency provisions or president rule was used in India. Okay. Now, of course, you know that what are the challenges of it. The state's development comes to an halt. Okay. If we look at what is the implications, if we talk about this, the implications. First is it is just the what you can say, a harm or disrespect to the electoral mandate of the people. People choose government. People do not choose president rule. Okay. So what we see that abuse of this provision of president rule is basically a disrespect of electoral mandate. So one thing is, it is a disrespect of electoral mandate. People are choosing government. No one is choosing that we want president rule. Everyone is choosing their government. But what we see that there is frequent imposition of president rule, which is basically a disrespect of electoral mandate. Second thing, developmental work comes to a halt. Okay. Development works come to a halt. That is a major challenge. During the president rule, it is simply like it is entirely a bureaucratic system. It is entirely a bureaucratic system. So it is just a standby mode. There is no such development works. There is no such policy formulation. It is a mere standby arrangement that everything comes to a halt. Everything comes to a halt. That is one thing, that developmental work comes to a halt. Okay. Plus, it is violation of federal spirit. Violation of federal spirit. Okay. So it is like violating that federal spirit. Of course, you can say that India Indian constitution has not provided for a directly federal government. But you know that federalism is also the basic structure. It is in the spirit of the constitution. So abuse of this precedent rule or misuse of this precedent rule provision is a violation of federal spirit of the constitution. Okay. So that is also one of the challenge which we can see, that how this precedent rule is harmful for the state also, for our polity also. Okay. I hope it is clear. Good evening. Jai Hind, Sachin Pathak. So this is our first topic about the precedent rule, how many times it has been imposed, plus what are the possible implications. Now coming to the second topic, that is with respect to ad hoc judge. Like, is appointing ad hoc judges a viable means? So there is a complete article in the Hindu about this, that whether we should go for ad hoc judge or not. Okay. So we have discussed about this topic in the past also, about the ad hoc judges. Okay. So first thing is, if we are talking about ad hoc judge, when we are talking about ad hoc judges, so here basically the entire debate is about appointment of the retired judges of High Court as ad hoc judges in High Court. Okay. Second point was developmental work. See, suppose if government is there, so government will be planning new things. Government will be just releasing new things. It will be making new policies. It will be announcing new schemes. But when the precedent rule is there, it is just like a bureaucratic system is going on. Those schemes which has been launched or those programs which are already there will be continued, but there will not be any new developmental plan as such. Okay. Yes, Sachin. Sachin, I think you have contacted me earlier also, so you can message me there. I will get back to you. Okay. Now, coming to this part, ad hoc judges. Okay. So, if we look at this, the main debate is about appointment of retired judges. Retired judges as ad hoc judge. This is the main debate. And why we are looking for this? Why do we want this? Why do we want to recall? Why do we want to be? No, it is about appointment in the high courts. Right now, we are talking about appointment of ad hoc judges in the High Court. Okay. So what we see that, why this debate is there? Why we are having this debate that we should be having the appointment of these judges? Okay. So why we are having this part? The first thing is case pendency. Case pendency. Now, overall, if we talk about India, can you tell me how many cases are pending in India? How many cases are pending in the Indian judiciary? Any idea about this? How many cases are pending in Indian judiciary? How many cases are there pending in Indian judiciary? No idea. Many. You cannot say many. Many cases are pending, that we also know. But you have to give some figure. 1.2 million. 1.2 million is 12 lakh. 4 to 5 crore. Yes. It is around 4.5 crore. Okay. 4.5 crore in Indian courts. Out of this, the majority of them are pending in the lower courts. But in high courts, if we talk here about the high courts, we are basically concerned about the high court. So case pendency is 62 lakhs as of January 25, 2025. As of January 25, 2025, there are 62 lakh cases pending in the high courts. Okay. So that much is the pendency, means per court it is more than 2 lakh. Per courts it is more than 2 lakhs on an average. There are some courts with less pendency, there are some courts with more pendency. Okay. But 62 lakh cases are pending. Then vacancy in courts. Vacancy in courts. Here we are again talking about high courts. So 32% or near about 1/3 seats are vacant. 1/3 seats vacant. So in our judiciary, which is already having a very low sanctioned strength, the total strength of high court judges is just 1122. That is the total number of posts, out of which around 367 are vacant. Okay. So what we see that total seats, if we talk about this, total seats, so total seats of high court judges is just at 1122. And even out of that, 1/3 seats are vacant. So that is the pendency of the cases. Okay. Then the third thing is delay in appointment. The third major thing is delay in appointment. There is basically a deadlock. Okay. There is basically this deadlock between the executive and the judiciary. The collegium system is recommending the name. The executive is just sitting over the names. They are neither saying yes, they are neither saying no. They are neither saying this yes or nor saying this no. So ultimately, the appointments are not taking place. Why? The executive says that we require some time for background check or this check or that check, and ultimately the seats remain vacant for a very long period of time. So that is one of the major challenge. That these seats are like vacant. There is delay in appointment plus so many pendency. Now, what is the benefit? If we are talking about ad hoc judges, so what is the benefit? Benefit of ad hoc judges. Okay. First thing is, here you will not need any background case. Sorry, here you don't need so much comprehensive background check. Okay. Because they are already judges. No need of comprehensive background check. They have already been judges of high court. So you don't need that much comprehensive checking of this, that whether they are good or not. Okay. Plus, they have this expertise also. Expertise of handling cases. They also have this expertise of handling cases. Since they have been already there as judges, they are also having these expertise of handling cases. Okay. And there can be faster appointments also. So that is something that if we go by the ad hoc judges right now, we will get the experience also. We will get the faster experience also. Okay. Plus, it will help us in reducing the backlog also. Okay. So that is one thing which we see in case of the benefit of ad hoc judges. Of course, this is not the permanent solution. This is not the permanent solution, but right now we definitely need some temporary relief. We definitely need some temporary relief because the numbers are climbing year by year, day by day. More and more number of cases are getting accumulated, and there is one simple concept: justice delayed is justice denied. Okay. So when cases are getting pending for 10 years, 12 years, then it is equivalent to justice denied. Okay. So that's why we need some ad hoc judges appointment in the High Court. I hope that is clear. So that is one more topic, ad hoc judges. Okay. That who are they, how they can be appointed, what are the possible benefits, why we are going for them. Okay. Now, coming to the third important topic. The third important topic is with respect to coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure. Coalition for disaster resilient infra. Coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure. So when we are talking about this coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure, this is basically like, if you look at this organization, it is one of such initiative by India where India now is trying to become a global leader in fight against the new challenges. Okay. So here, like you may have seen that in past other countries were starting initiative, India was becoming part of this. So now India is also starting some of the initiatives like International Big Cat Alliance, International Solar Alliance. So in same manner, this is a India-led initiative. Okay. So if you look at this, it is a India-led initiative. India-led initiative. What is the aim of this? Why we have created this organization? The main focus is to promote climate adaptation initiative. Okay. So it is promoting, this promotes climate adaptation initiative. Climate adaptation initiative. So that is the role of this. It will be promoting climate adaptation initiatives, like suppose that climate smart agriculture, the agriculture which can adapt according to the changing situations, the use of renewable energy, the use of smart agriculture, etc., etc., the reduction of energy use, the promotion of efficiency of energy use, which will help in reducing the demand of energy. Okay. So climate smart things are one of the main part of this one. Okay. So it was launched by our Prime Minister in 2019 at New York Climate Action Summit. Sometimes in UPSC you are getting this question that when this program was launched. So this was launched in Climate Action Summit in 2019. It was launched by India. So there is Climate Action Summit of 2019 in New York, where we have got this Global Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. This is a multi-stakeholder initiative. Can you tell me what is multi-stakeholder initiative? Anyone? What is multi-stakeholder initiative? Tarikh pe tarikh. So this is a multi-stakeholder initiative. So can you tell me what is the meaning of this? Multi-stakeholder. See, if you find that there is written one thing, multi-stakeholder. Multi-stakeholder. Stakeholder means those who are affected due to this. Stakeholder means stakeholder means those who are affected. Okay. So multi-stakeholder generally means that it will consist of government, it will consist of NGOs, it will consist of international organizations, research body, etc. So whenever you see anything like multi-stakeholder, it means there are multiple types of parties involved. There is one thing called as intergovernmental group. Intergovernmental group means it is a group of just governments, whereas multi-stakeholder initiative means that it is like many groups are working together. Normally what you will find that there is a very important thing here, that in many of the cases intergovernmental groups make a treaty which also becomes legally binding in nature. Like suppose when we are talking about Montreal Protocol or Ramsar Convention or like these things, so they are intergovernmental treaties. So there is definite thing coming out of it. There is some treaty, there is some rules which countries have to follow. Then on the other hand, if there is a multi-stakeholder initiative, it is not having any such foundation. Rather than that, it is a supporting thing, that it will be supporting the countries in doing something. Okay. So when we talk about this multi-stakeholder, it is generally a group which is going to support the states or support the countries without putting any obligations on them. Whereas an intergovernmental group, generally you will find that, not always, but generally you will find that there is a treaty or an obligation of the countries. Okay. So this is a supportive group. Now this has taken an initiative. This has taken an initiative, and that initiative is called as Infrastructure for Resilient Island States. There is a IRIS initiative. There is an initiative called as IRIS. IRIS is Infrastructure for Resilient Island States. Okay. So you know that there are various small island developing states. There is a concept called as SIDS, Small Island Developing States. So there are various smaller islands, like suppose Mauritius is there, or let us say that we have the Caribbean countries over there. So they are called as small island developing states. So normally these small island developing states are more vulnerable to climate change. They are more vulnerable to climate change. Hence, this India-led global initiative has started a program for them which is called as Infrastructure for Resilient Island States. So it is going to like help in creation of resilient infrastructure. So this will help in creation of resilient infrastructure. Okay. So there is one thing, while United States and European Union and other countries, while they are like reducing their grants which they are giving to developing states or other countries, countries like India have started to help the small island developing states or developing countries. So this is one such initiative which you can see here, that how India has now started reaching out to the small island developing states, to smaller countries, and India is trying to help them. Whether we talk about Maldives, we talk about Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Bangladesh also, or any other smaller countries. At the same time, we are helping in Africa also, Caribbean countries also, and even overall for small island developing states, we have got this IRIS initiative under CDRI, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. Okay, so that is one of the initiative of India. Okay, I hope this part is clear. Normally, they will ask you about this one also, that which organization is responsible for this initiative, when it was launched, etc., etc. I think from there you can answer it now. It is a multi-stakeholder initiative started by India looking for this part. Okay. What is our issue with Sri Lanka and Maldives? For Sri Lanka, we have issues of fishermen. We have issues of Sri Lanka versus China. That is the major issue. Sri Lanka and China plus fisherman issue. They are the major issues between India and Sri Lanka. For Maldives, like generally we see that there is not so much of issue. Of course, China is one of the challenge. Second thing is the internal politics of Maldives. That becomes a challenge. But right now what we see that there are certain improvements in that relations with Maldives. Yes, Amit, in the English batches, I will be taking the classes. Okay. Now, coming to the next topic, there is this one issue. Ranveer Allahabadia Row, and what is the law with respect to obscenity? Okay. That with the respect to obscene scenes or obscene remarks, what are the laws in India and what is the issue all about? Like, we are not going into this particular issue, but what we see as an overall trend, we will try to just talk a little bit about this. Okay. Now see, like, what is the challenge right now? Okay. Or what are the emerging trends? What are the emerging trends? Okay. See, what we see that there is one thing, there is first rise of OTT. Rise of OTT. Over the top like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Jio Cinema, etc. etc. So they are called as OTT platforms. Okay. So when we see that right now there is rise of OTT platforms. Okay. Second thing, rise of social media. Rise of social media. Okay. And third thing is impact of global cinema and culture. There are three things. What we see that in India, there is rise of this OTT platform, rise of social media, and impact of global cinema and culture. Okay. Now, all of this has given rise to creation of content which is somewhat different from our traditional contents. Content. Okay. So now what we see that the content on these platforms, they are becoming somewhat sensitive. They are becoming somewhat personal. Okay. Earlier, what was the thing that suppose if we are talking about Indian cinema like Bollywood. So when we talk about Bollywood, it has to get this Central Board of Film, this CBFC, Central Board for Film Certification. So it is giving them certificates, and accordingly there is censor also. By following that, they are released into the cinema halls. But what we see that if we look at them, the nature of these content, if we look at the nature of these content, they are consumed personally. Okay. Consumption is personal or consumed personally. Okay. Like suppose that when you are having a social media reel, suppose that you are scrolling on Instagram, or you are watching YouTube, or you are watching even Netflix or others, most of the time what we see that people are watching it alone. Nowadays, most of the people who are there, who are users of Netflix, I am not saying TV users, most of the people who are watching TV, they are watching in a family. But when we talk about the OTT platforms, a majority of the people are either watching it solo or they are watching it in a group, which is generally of friends. which is generally of their age or their friend circle. Okay. So what happens that this is being consumed personally or in a small circle or small circle. So this is one angle of this OTT platform. Second thing is, if we talk about the content, it is like having sensitive, it is having sensitive adult content. This is having sensitive adult content. This adult content can be in form of nudity, in form of vulgar, not writing vulgar, nudity in terms of abusive words, or there are certain unconventional contents also. Okay. Unconventional content. So what we see that many a times over these platforms, there are certain contents, not all the contents, but there are certain contents which are containing sensitive adult content. Okay. Now, this is one reflection of the content on the OTT platforms. First thing, if we look at their nature, they are getting consumed personally or small circle. Second thing is, they are having some sensitive adult content. Okay. Now, what is the challenge emerging out of this? What is the challenge? One challenge is many of them have no filters, both in terms of content and reach. Okay. So no filter, there is no filter in terms of content and in terms of reach. See, no filter in terms of content, like we have already seen in the previous slide, that it is containing so many things. Example is nudity, abusive words, vulgar, not vulgar, but like unconventional scenes. Okay. Like suppose in India, it is unconventional in India to show the love between transgender people. So whenever a movie with respect to transgender people, or whenever a show or any such series is there with respect to the transgender people, then many people get offended. Or when there is some talk about religion or religious practices, then people get offended. Okay. So that is one thing. So what we see that content without filter plus reach, it is reaching even children or teenagers. So it is even reaching the children or the teenagers because there is no such effective filter. Okay. So it impacts, this impacts healthy development of this group. So that is one of the challenge. This is impacting the healthy development of this group. That is one of the challenge. Okay. Second, another challenge is the cultural challenge. The cultural challenge. Okay. Since there is a transition, this is a transition phase in our culture, in our society. This is a transition phase. So there is a natural resistance. There is a natural resistance to the upcoming thoughts, ideas, or new things. Okay. So there is, of course, what we see that there is a resistance towards new ideas or culture. Okay. There is a new culture which is not just in India, which is across the world. The roasting culture is not there in India, the OTT content in India is not restricted just to India. It is global now. But in India, its acceptability is facing a strict resistance from a group. Why? Because Indian culture has been different from this. So of course, there will be a natural resistance to this. Okay. So that's why what we see that there is a lot of controversy which goes on. Okay. So this is one part. Like if we look at this, if we analyze this, there is an emerging trend of these social media circles. Now, what we say that these contents, they are consumed personally, but they also have sensitive content. Now, while they are being consumed personally, still there is a challenge. The challenge is this: the content has no filter. The reach is also up to children or teenagers. Plus, at the same time, there is also a cultural challenge as well, which we see here. Okay. So this is one part. Okay. Now, coming to another part, that when we are talking about this, what are the laws in India? Okay. What are the laws in India? So, laws. In the case of India, one of the major thing which we have is, right now we have this Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Okay, this BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Under this BNS, there is a section 294. There is this section 294 of the BNS. Section 294 of BNS. So this is like criminalizing. It is criminalizing the sale, import, export, or even display of obscene material, including electronic content. Okay. So sale, import, export, or display. Sale, import, export, or display of obscene material has been criminalized. Okay. So it is criminal offense. This is a criminal offense. Okay. So that is one thing. If there is a display of any such obscene material, okay, and like the definition of obscene material, is very much subjective. Okay. Like the definition of this obscene material is very much like what you can say, vague. It is simply saying that any such content which appeals to the corrupt viewers. Now the thing is, who will be the corrupt viewers and how they are going to be identified? Okay. Like who will be called as corrupt viewers, or like how you define obscenity? That becomes one of the most subjective things, that what you define as obscene, and in what context you define something as obscene. That is very challenging task. Okay. So this is something which is subject to abuse, because defining obscene things depends on the context. Like suppose if two people are chatting with each other personally, so what will be called obscene there? Or if suppose there is a group of people who are talking about something, so what will be called obscene there? What will be the definition of obscenity and in what context? That remains a vague thing, that is not well defined in the law. So that is one of the challenge, okay, that what contains this obscene things has not been well defined. Okay. There is also section 767 of IT Act, Information Technology Act. Okay. There is this IT Act 2000. Okay. So here also it have got this section 67. Okay. So this is also like, it also punishes publishing or transmitting obscene materials online. Okay. So this is also punishes publishing or transmitting or transmitting obscene material online. So this is also one of the challenge. Let's see the topic of obscenity. Okay. The topic of what is obscene, like what is obscene or not, depends on the context, depends on the society, depends from time to time. Okay. Depends on society, time, and so many things. Okay. For example, like there was this case, a weak Sarkar versus state of West Bengal. So in that, like it was said that nudity alone cannot be called as obscene. Okay. So displaying nudity cannot be called as obscene. It was said in a weak Sarkar versus state of West Bengal. Okay. So there is a need, in actual, there is a need to define that what actually is obscenity in India. And that has to be defined properly, taking all stakeholders in consultation. Okay. There should be consultation from all the groups, all the stakeholders, and then we need to evolve a definition of what will be called as obscene. Otherwise, even the content creators will have no idea that what can be termed as obscene. There can be even violation of the freedom of expression, or sometimes there can be even those contents developed by the content creators which may be harmful for the society. So right now what we see that there is a lack of clarity on what is called as obscene. Okay. One group of people, or I or you or just a few people, cannot decide what will be called as obscene, what will not be called as obscene. Okay. So there is a need in the way forward, since we have a need to define this obscenity. Okay. We have a need to define this obscenity. At the same time, the content creators who are there, over the social media websites or over any OTT platforms, they also have to like work on this. Like when we talk about, especially when we talk about the abusive words which have become so much common on social media websites, that in many of the OTT platforms, in many of the YouTube videos or other things, abusive words are considered that if you are not using abusive words, you are not doing a good work. Okay. So for that, there is one simple thing. There was a statement from one of the very popular actor, and not just actor, he is a multi-talented person, Javed Akhtar. So one of his very important line was that when you have content, you don't need any such abusive word. When you lack the content, then you need that abusive word. Okay. So that is one thing which even the content creators have to realize. Now even the government has to come forward with the civil servant groups and even the content creators and all, to develop a standard for what should be called as obscenity and what should not be. It cannot be totally decided by government. It cannot be totally decided by the content creators. There is a need of a multi-stakeholder consultation on this to evolve a definition. Plus, it will also require updation from time to time, because what was considered obscene once may not be considered obscene today. Okay. Or what was not considered obscene once maybe get considered obscenity today. For example, when we talk about the Khajuraho monuments, if we talk about the Khajuraho monuments, you know that how the scenes have been depicted in Khajuraho monuments. If we try to look at that, and if we try to look at the modern cinema or modern paintings, then what was not considered obscene at that time may be considered obscene today. So again, we have to evolve the definition of obscenity as per the time, as per the culture, as per the society. Okay. I hope that is clear. Today's major concern in children are getting matured earlier than their age. They know things which they should not. So you cannot stop children from like knowing things which they should not know. You can do only one thing. You cannot just tell the children what they should know or what they should not know. If they are knowing something, if they are doing something wrong, then they should they should have been told what is right. If they have learned bad things, then again it is the fault of their seniors that they have not been able to tell them the good things. It is not the fault of the children. It is the fault of their seniors. It is the fault of their elderly people. Why they have not been able to tell the good things? Were they busy with mobile phones and TV? Live interaction. Okay, Ayush. Yeah, I know that it is a serious concern that children have got so many information. Rather, we can say that children have got so many misinformation. But again, if they have got the misinformation, then we are responsible for it. We should have guided them better. It is not their fault. It is our fault that we have not been able to guide them better. That we have to guide them better. That is the only thing. Nowadays, you will find this one simple thing. See, why are the children getting so much misinformation? You will find that from a very early age, they are getting uncontrolled exposure. They are getting this uncontrolled exposure to social media websites or social media tools which are training them for something which they are not ready for. At the age of 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, or even 15 years, they are not matured enough to understand a lot of things. They are not matured enough to understand a lot of things. So they have to be properly guided throughout that time. They have to be properly guided throughout that time. So it cannot be simply like taking them away from social media. It should be about how to use social media in a better manner. The guidance can be about it. Okay. So it is not about the use of social media. It is about the type of content which people are scrolling. Okay. So it is entirely up to the people. If something which is bad is getting viral, it is not the problem created by the content creator. It is the problem of society. People have the option not to watch it. People have the option not to watch it. If they think that something is bad, they should not be watching it. So it is not the problem just of the content creator. We are also to be blamed. Okay. That is also one of the challenge. What will be the beta generation in future? I will not talk about this. Right now, I am seeing the generation which is coming up. Okay. So, see, there is one simple thing. There is one common concept. We always think that, we always have a tendency that the generation which was before us was too much primitive. And the generation which is coming after us is dumb. Okay. So this has always been the thing. We always think about this, that the generation just before us was primitive type. They were not having that much idea. They were not having that much of like, they were not that much thoughtful and all. And we always tend to think that the generation which is coming just after us is very dumb. Now they also think in the same manner that our like people, the generation before us is dumb. They are so outdated and we are very advanced. The generation after us is very dumb. So this is the continuous process. This is the continuous process. We always think that this is with all the generations. This is with all the generations. We think the previous generations to be outdated and the new upcoming generations to be dumb. So this has always been the case and it will always be. Okay. So there is nothing which we can do. There will always be new generations, new ideas, new intellect, and it will come. Okay. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone. Let's meet on Monday then at 5 p.m. and then we will talk about the remaining things. Okay. So thank you. Take care. Enjoy the weekend and study well. We are also having the revision series classes in the morning on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Okay. So see you there also and in the current affair classes also. Okay. Thank you everyone. Take care. Thank you.